The laughter grew louder as Lynn crossed the garden. Her mother waved her toward the buffet table, smiling tight. "Just set it there, dear," she said, eyes already elsewhere. Lynn noticed again, the 12 plates glinting under the oak. 13 people, 12 settings, the math deliberate and cruel. She inhaled once, slow, steady, tasting charcoal and humiliation. Her brother Hai stood by the grill, holding court as usual. His voice filled the yard, smug and heavy with approval. Their father chuckled at something he barely heard. The same pattern, the same show, every single year. Lynn placed Grandma Mai's dish among the others, untouched. She straightened her back and reached for her tote bag. Her fingers brushed the white envelope hidden inside. Her pulse thudded hard against the quiet resolve in her chest. Enough, she thought, this ends now. She turned toward the table, each step deliberate, slow. "Before we eat," her voice cut through the chatter, "I have something for my brother." Heads turned. The cicadas outside seemed to hush. Hai looked amused, tilting his glass toward her. "What's this, another award speech?" he teased. Lynn laid the envelope in front of him. "Open it," she said, calm as still water. Hai's grin faltered. He tore the flap with lazy curiosity. A few sheets slid into his hand, rustling like accusation. His eyes flicked over the first page. The smile vanished completely. "That's an email you sent to Greenstone Development," Lynn said. "You told them I was unstable, unfit for leadership." A murmur swept the table, low and electric. Her mother's pearls clicked as her hand rose to her throat. "Lynn, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," she said, not looking at her. "The second page," she continued, "is a bank record." Hai's face drained of color. "Grandma's account," Lynn said evenly. $12,000, withdrawn 2 weeks before she died. The words hit like small explosions in the summer heat. Her father froze mid-motion, spatula hovering above the grill. Her aunt stared at her plate. Someone coughed. "The last page is Grandma's will," Lynn said softly. "The sapphire ring was meant for me, not Clara." A sharp intake of breath rippled around the table. Clara's hand flew to her finger, to the stolen stone. Hai slammed the papers down. "You're delusional," he hissed. "You always twist things to make yourself the victim." Lynn didn't flinch. "No, I just finally stopped staying silent." She looked at her father. "You knew, didn't you?" He looked away, the silence heavier than guilt itself. For the first time, Lynn didn't shrink. Her voice grew steady, clear, unbreakable. 30 years you've all looked through me," she said. "I'm done playing the invisible child." Hai laughed once, sharp and hollow. "Then go on, make your scene." "I don't need a scene," Lynn said. "I just need truth." She turned, the sound of her heels slicing through the quiet. Behind her, no one moved, no one spoke. The smoke from the grill drifted upward, slow and gray. Somewhere, a flag rustled in the wind, small and defiant. The night pressed heavy around the highway. Lynn drove without music, headlights carving tunnels through dark. Her hands gripped the wheel, pale and steady. Each mile carried her farther from the house, from the noise. She didn't cry, not once. The silence felt strange, like a room after a storm. She reached the small inn by the lake near midnight. A wooden sign swung gently in the wind. Inside, the air smelled of pine and old quilts. The innkeeper handed her a brass key without questions. "Lake view, second floor," she said kindly. Lynn nodded, too tired for words. Her footsteps echoed down the hallway like memories. The room waited, simple, blue, and still. She set her bag on the bed and stood motionless. The hum of crickets outside filled the quiet. She opened the window, letting in the cold night air. For the first time in years, no one was watching. No one measuring, no one judging. Her phone buzzed once, then again. 12 missed calls, 6 from her mother. She turned it face down on the nightstand. The light blinked once before dying out. She stared at her reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back seemed both familiar and new. Her eyes held no tears, only exhaustion and release. "You did it," she whispered to herself. The words sounded strange but real. The image of Hai's face replayed in her mind. Shock, denial, fear, all flashing like quick lightning. It wasn't triumph she felt, only emptiness. But beneath that emptiness lay something cleaner. She sat on the edge of the bed, breathing slow. The air smelled faintly of rain and freedom. Her hands still trembled, but not from fear. The tremor felt like the body learning calm again. She thought of Grandma Mai's voice, soft and patient. "Courage isn't loud," it used to say. "It's the whisper that tells you to keep walking." She smiled faintly at the memory. Outside, a ripple moved across the black lake. A boat's lantern drifted in the distance, steady and small. She imagined herself on that water, untethered. No expectations, no roles, just breath and motion. The room creaked as the building settled. Somewhere down the hall, a door closed softly. Lynn stretched out on the bed, shoes still on. The ceiling above her blurred, pale in moonlight. She realized she could leave her phone off forever. No explanations, no apologies. A knock came at the door in her mind, old habits. But no one knocked now, no one called her name. She felt the first wave of peace rise slow inside her chest. It was fragile, yes, but real. Sleep found her gently, like forgiveness. And in that quiet drift between waking and dream, she saw herself standing by the lake. Barefoot, steady, holding nothing but the cool night air. The knock came just after the first fireworks burst outside. Lynn froze, the glass in her hand trembling slightly. She wasn't expecting anyone, not tonight. Another knock followed, softer, uncertain. She walked to the door, heart thudding in quiet rhythm. "Who is it?" she asked. "It's me," a small voice answered. "My Anne." For a moment, Lynn couldn't breathe. She opened the door slowly, the hallway washed in red light. My Anne stood there, eyes swollen, holding her purse like a shield. "Can I come in?" she whispered. Lynn nodded, stepping aside. They sat opposite each other, silence heavy as fog. "I shouldn't be here," my Anne said finally. "Mom's losing her mind. Hai's furious." Lynn looked out the window toward the lake. Fireworks painted the sky, reflected in the dark water. "I expected that," she said softly. My Anne twisted her fingers together, restless and fragile. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" she asked. "About the emails, the money, all of it." "Would you have believed me?" Lynn asked. My Anne's lips parted, but no words came. The silence between them answered for her. "I thought keeping quiet made things easier," she admitted. "It didn't," Lynn said. "It just made us smaller." A spark cracked outside, lighting both their faces. My Anne wiped at her mascara, leaving dark traces. "He made us choose sides," she said. "I always chose wrong." "We all did," Lynn replied, "until today." She poured tea from the small kettle, hands steady now. The steam rose between them, soft as truce. My Anne took the cup with shaking fingers. "Dad hasn't spoken since you left," she said. "He just sat there, holding those papers." Lynn closed her eyes for a second, picturing it. "Maybe he finally saw what silence costs," she murmured. The fireworks grew louder, echoing across the lake. Color spilled through the curtains, blue and gold. My Anne's voice trembled. "I remember the ring," she said. "Grandma promised it to you when we were kids." "She did," Lynn said, "but it was never about the ring. It was about being seen." My Anne nodded, tears spilling freely now. "I didn't want to see," she whispered. "It hurt too much." Lynn reached across the small table, touching her hand. "It's different now. You saw, that's enough for tonight." They sat in silence, watching bursts of light bloom outside. The noise faded into something almost gentle. "I don't know what happens next," my Anne said quietly. Lynn smiled faintly. Neither do I, but it's ours to decide. The last fireworks shimmered and died above the water. Their reflection lingered, trembling but beautiful. For the first time in years, the sisters watched the sky together. Not as rivals, not as shadows, but as two people learning how to begin again. Morning light spilled across Lynn's desk 3 weeks later. The city hummed beyond the glass, distant and alive. Her office smelled of coffee and fresh paper. The blueprints for the eco-home project covered the table. She reviewed the final designs, pen tapping lightly. Her assistant knocked once before entering. Architectural Journal called again, she said. They want a quote about the award nomination. Lynn smiled faintly. Tell them I'll call this afternoon. Her voice carried calm, grounded in certainty. Also, the assistant added, someone's here asking for you. Lynn looked up. Who? A Mr. Triuong. Says he's considering our firm for his lakefront project. The words landed like stones in quiet water. Rumors still followed her, shadows refusing to fade. She straightened her blazer, smoothed her hair. Send him in, she said. A tall man entered, gray at the temples, polite but probing. His gaze swept the room, resting on the framed award on the wall. Miss Lynn, he began, I'll be direct. I've heard concerns from someone close to your family. The old tension stirred, sharp as glass under skin. Lynn folded her hands on the desk, steady and deliberate. Concerns, she repeated, or gossip. The man's brow lifted slightly. He said you're unpredictable, difficult. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were photos, reports, testimonials, press articles. Our last project finished early and under budget, she said. 80 families now live in affordable, energy-efficient homes. She slid the folder toward him, meeting his eyes. My work speaks for itself. He hesitated, then smiled in quiet amusement. You sound like my niece, he said, direct and fearless. Lynn tilted her head, puzzled. Your niece. He chuckled softly. Tram, your aunt. The air shifted, softening around them. She asked me to visit, he continued, to see if you're really as strong as she says. For a moment, Lynn couldn't find words. Her throat tightened with something close to relief. So this wasn't about a project, she said. He nodded. She wanted me to tell you she's proud. The world seemed to tilt slightly, warm and new. He rose, leaving an envelope on her desk. Coffee someday, he said. No pressure. After he left, Lynn stood by the window. The river below shimmered in the noon light. Cars drifted past, ordinary and endless. Her phone buzzed once with a new message. From my Anne, coffee tomorrow, just us. Lynn typed back without hesitation. 10 a.m. at Blackbird Cafe. She set the phone down and exhaled. For years, she'd fought to be seen. Now she no longer needed proof. Outside, sunlight caught the corner of the framed certificate. It gleamed briefly, before fading into the rhythm of her day. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and rain on concrete. Lynn sat by the window, stirring her coffee slowly. The glass fogged faintly from the morning chill outside. My Anne arrived late, cheeks pink, eyes tired but clear. She wore no makeup, hair tied back carelessly. You look different, Lynn said with a small smile. So do you, my Anne replied, sliding into the seat. They sat in silence for a few breaths. I started therapy last week, my Anne said quietly. Lynn's spoon paused mid-stir. That's good, she said. How do you feel? Like I've been living someone else's life, my Anne whispered. Dr. La says I mimic people to stay safe. Lynn nodded. I used to do that too. My Anne laughed softly, a sound both fragile and real. I'm sorry, Lynn, she said, for all of it. Lynn met her gaze, calm and unflinching. Sorry doesn't fix the past, she said gently. But it opens a door to something better. My Anne's eyes glistened. Mom still pretends nothing happened. She will, Lynn said. Pretending is her armor. Hi, been calling Dad's creditors. My Ann continued. His business is falling apart. Lynn exhaled slowly, not surprised. He built everything on lies, she said. It was bound to crack. They fell quiet as the waitress refilled their cups. Outside, the city pulsed with weekend noise. My Ann toyed with her napkin, voice trembling. Do you ever miss them? Lynn thought before answering. I miss what I wanted them to be, she said. Not what they were. My Ann nodded, tears sliding down unnoticed. I used to envy you, she confessed. You were brave enough to leave. I wasn't brave, Lynn said. I was desperate. They both smiled, soft and sad. A long silence stretched, but it no longer felt heavy. The air between them had changed, lighter, freer. Will you ever forgive Hai? My Ann asked. I don't know, Lynn said. Forgiveness isn't a gift, it's work. My Ann traced the rim of her cup. Maybe one day, she murmured. Maybe, Lynn agreed, but not today. The clock above the counter ticked steadily. My Ann reached across the table, palm open. Lynn hesitated, then placed her hand there. The gesture was small but anchored. Let's do this every month, My Ann said. Coffee, honesty, no pretending. Lynn smiled, genuine and full of quiet strength. Deal, she said. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets gleaming. They walked together toward the parking lot, shoulders brushing. My Ann paused beside Lynn's car. How do you start over? She asked softly. Lynn looked up at the clearing sky. You stop building on broken ground, she said. You choose foundations that can hold your truth. My Ann nodded, tears mixing with laughter. Architect wisdom, she teased. Lynn chuckled. Maybe, but it works. They hugged briefly, the kind that meant beginning again. When Lynn drove away, the clouds parted just enough for light. Snow drifted past the window like quiet confessions. Lynn adjusted the candles on the table, calm and sure. Her apartment smelled of cinnamon, cedar, and peace. The Christmas tree glowed softly in the corner. Not gold and silver like her mother, but warm and mismatched. Each ornament told a story she chose herself. The doorbell rang once, sharp against the carols playing low. She expected My Ann and Clara, not this early. When she checked the peephole, her chest tightened. Her mother stood there, wrapped in red wool and pride. Behind her, Hai lingered, tall, immaculate, eyes cold. Lynn opened the door but did not step aside. Darling, her mother said, we couldn't spend Christmas apart. Lynn's voice stayed steady. You should have called first. Hai scoffed. We're family, Lynn. We don't need an invitation. Family respects boundaries, she said simply. Her mother's smile cracked, just slightly. Don't be dramatic, she murmured. We came to make peace. Peace requires truth, Lynn said. You never wanted that. Hai's jaw tightened, anger flashing quick behind his calm. Dad's blood pressure is high because of you, he snapped. Your little stunt nearly killed him. A deeper voice spoke from the hallway behind them. Don't use me as your excuse, Hai. Their father stepped forward, snow dusting his coat. He looked different, straighter, lighter, awake. Dad, Lynn whispered. He nodded, eyes soft. I wanted to be here. Her mother turned, startled. You said you were resting. I lied, he said quietly. I'm done lying. Hai's face burned red. This is ridiculous. You always think you're better than us, Lynn. She shook her head slowly. No, I just stopped believing I was less. The hallway went still, filled with the hum of unsaid things. Her mother's voice broke through, trembling. This isn't you. This is exactly me, Lynn said. The one you never let exist. She took a breath, grounding herself like stone. If you want a relationship, here are my terms. Therapy, honesty, respect. Anything less, and the door stays closed. Her mother gasped, clutching her necklace. Absurd. Maybe, Lynn said softly, but it's mine. For a long moment, no one moved. Then her father spoke again, quiet but firm. She's right, thou. It's time we listen. Hi's hand clenched around his coat. Let's go, Mom. Her mother hesitated, eyes darting between them. But Hi was already walking toward the elevator. She followed, her perfume fatting down the hall. Lynn stood still, heart beating steady in the silence. Her father smiled faintly. You handled that better than I ever did. Would you like some coffee? She asked. I'd love that, he said. They stepped inside, the warmth closing gently around them. The tree lights flickered across the sapphire ring on her hand. It glowed deep blue, alive in the quiet. For the first time, the house felt full. Not of people, but of peace. Summer returned with the scent of grass and sunlight. Lynn's new home shimmered under the July sky. Voices drifted from the backyard, warm and alive. Her father laughed with Catherine near the grill. My-Ann and Clara set plates, talking over each other. Jordan handed her a glass of lemonade, smiling softly. The sapphire ring caught the light on her hand. It no longer felt like armor, only belonging. She looked around at the faces she had chosen. No performance, no judgment, no pretending. Only the quiet rhythm of real connection. Douglas raised his glass, voice steady and kind. To the families we build, and the courage to change. Lynn smiled, lifting her drink in answer. Fireworks bloomed above the city skyline. Their reflections flickered in her window, golden and free. Jordan handed her a sparkler, the flame bright against dusk. Last year you watched alone, he said gently. Last year I was learning how to begin, she replied. The light danced across her face, soft and certain. Freedom, she realized, wasn't leaving everything behind. It was finally coming home to herself.